never be able to undo the fact that a life was lost. We are here to announce that Luigi Mangione, the defendant, is charged with 1 count of murder in the first degree and 2 counts of murder in the second degree, including 1 count of murder in the second degree as an act of terrorism for the brazen, targeted, and premeditated shooting of Brian Thompson, who, as you know, was the CEO of United Healthcare. This case was made possible by the collaborative efforts of the phenomenal public servants you see before you today, and so many others who are not here. I'm honored to lead the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and privileged to serve alongside Assistant District Attorneys Joel Seidman, Kristen Bailey, and Zachary Kaplan, who were working from the outset, hand in hand, with the greatest police department in the world. Chief of our trial division, Lisa Del Pizzo, and the Deputy Chief, Chris Prevost, provided sage oversight and direction. And I want to acknowledge our high technology analysis unit. There was a lot to be processed here. Steve Moran, in particular, who heads that, and Marco Popic. We are privileged here at the DA's office to work every day with the phenomenal public servants at the NYPD. It has been a distinct pleasure to work besides Commissioner Tisch, an exemplary partner, and Chief of Detectives Joseph Kinney. Almost every day we're in touch, and his leadership is second to none. And then Deputy Commissioner Rebecca Weiner, who, as I tell her, there are a lot of challenging things happening in the world, and I sleep better at night knowing that she is the Deputy Commissioner in charge of terrorism. The detectives on this, out doing the courageous frontline work, Detective Oscar Diaz, Detective Curcio, exemplary, the finest. It wasn't just those of us here in New York. I want to acknowledge the great work of our partners in Altoona, the Altoona Police Department, the Blair County District Attorney's Office, the governors of New York and Pennsylvania, the FBI, and of course, the brave members of the public who answered the call when our great commissioner put out the call for their assistance. This was a frightening, well-planned, targeted murder that was intended to cause shock and attention and intimidation. It occurred in one of the most bustling parts of our city, threatening the safety of local residents and tourists alike, commuters and business people just starting out on their day. Let me say a bit more about the charges. They include 1 count of murder in the first degree as a killing in furtherance of terrorism, 2 counts of murder in the second degree, 1 charging that the killing was done as an act of terrorism, and the second pertaining to the fact that the killing was intentional. The maximum penalty possible for murder in the first degree and murder in the second degree as an act of terrorism is life without parole. The maximum penalty for murder in the second degree is 25 years to life. There are additional counts as well. A number of criminal possession of weapon charges, 2 counts in the second degree, 4 counts in the third degree, 1 count in the fourth degree, and a count of criminal possession of a forged instrument in the second degree. Let me tell you a bit about the facts. On November 24th, we allege that the defendant arrived in New York City to murder Brian Thompson. After the defendant arrived in New York City on a bus at Port Authority, he checked into the hostel on the Upper West Side using the name Mark Rosario with a fake New Jersey ID. On the morning of December 4th, the defendant left the hostel, just after 5:30 a.m. and traveled to Midtown. For nearly an hour, we allege the defendant waited in the area near the Hilton Hotel, waiting for Mr. Thompson to appear. From 6:38 a.m. to 6:44 a.m., the defendant stood across from the entrance of the hotel on West 54th Street. When he saw Mr. Thompson, he crossed the street and approached him from behind. We allege he then took out a 9mm 3D printed ghost gun, equipped with a 3D printed suppressor, and shot him once in the back and once in the leg. The defendant then fled northeast on 54th Street and took an e-bike uptown, before getting into a taxi that took him to West 178th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. On December 9th, the defendant was spotted at McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. The local police were notified, he was arrested, and he was found with a 9mm handgun, a suppressor, 2 ammunition magazines, and the same fake New Jersey ID he used at the hostel. I want to say a word about ghost guns. These weapons are increasingly proliferating throughout New York City and the entire country. Involving technology will only make this problem worse. Last year, over 80 ghost guns and ghost gun parts were recovered in Manhattan alone. The NYPD and the Manhattan DA's office have been leading in the interdiction of these ghost guns. And one thing I want to make clear, they're unserialized, they can be printed out, but as this case tragically makes clear, they are just as deadly as traditional firearms. This will remain a priority for us here in Manhattan. Finally, I know there have been questions about the extradition process. The latest that I can offer you is that the defendant is currently scheduled to appear in court in Pennsylvania on Thursday morning, first for a preliminary hearing on his Pennsylvania charges. Immediately to follow for the hearing, will send to the governor of the state of New York the paperwork would be necessary if he does not waive during that.
Good evening and welcome to Investigate Everything. Not sure what happened there with that camera, so let me just kill that and come right back. There we go. Hopefully it catches up with me. All right. So I'm not going to let that slow me down. I wanted to stop it right there because an annoying commercial came on. I unfortunately did not have time to cut that for you. Okay, guys, hold on. Let me come right back because this can drive me nuts. Yeah, okay, well, we will hopefully it'll catch up with us. But anyways, in the meantime, that's horrible. Forget about it. So I wanted you to watch that little press conference that Alvin Bragg had. So what he's talking about is charging Luigi Mangione with first-degree murder. That's why the terrorism charge. So people understand that in New York, you cannot be charged with first-degree murder unless you have killed a judge, killed a police officer, killed a first responder, or committed an act of terrorism. That's why they're trying to lay terrorism on this. Now, in this case here, you have someone who is basically, they're going to try to make into a terrorist just so they can get their first degree murder. Why is that important? Well, let me show more of the press conference so I can fix my camera and I will come back because honestly, it's just too distracting. So bear with me. Give that a second. I had a great opening ready and that is just really unfortunate. So just bear with me. Sorry about that.
I now want to turn over to our great commissioner, and when I do so, I wanted to thank her for her partnership, not only on this matter, but on all we do every day together. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. The unsealing of today's indictment brings us one step closer to securing justice for Brian Thompson and his family, and affirming the primacy of the rule of law in the city of New York. NYPD detectives worked tirelessly to piece this case together. And along the way, the Manhattan DA's office made sure we had every legal tool available to us. Whether quickly providing subpoenas to assist with our evidence collection, or traveling with us to Altoona, Pennsylvania last week after the apprehension, our partnership made this a successful investigation. So I'd like to thank District Attorney Bragg and his team for their work in bringing this case forward. Part of that work.
There we are. Sorry about that. So I want to get right into this case, get right into what I want to say. First of all, what we're talking about, for those of you that don't know, is on December 4th at approximately 6:44 a.m., the CEO of United Healthcare's insurance company under the United Healthcare Group was shot in cold blood, 3 shots to the back, in front of the Hilton Hotel, which is off Midtown, which is off of 54th Street, at the corner of 54th and 6th. That's where the cross street is. Now, let's break it down. What we all saw was this very, very dramatic situation, horrible situation. And my heart definitely goes out to the family of the slain CEO. And then we saw the manhunt. This pretty typical. Police want to show they're doing their job. There's nothing wrong with that. So now let's flash ahead. We saw a single picture of a man supposedly in a Starbucks. I'll call that up while we're talking. Supposedly in a Starbucks, that is a picture of the shooter. He's got his mask up. He's got the hood. He's got the gray backpack that you saw in the shooting. Now, there's a lot of problems with that picture. First of all, there's nothing in that picture that shows us really anything. It doesn't show us it's actually at a Starbucks. It doesn't show us what time the picture was taken. We just have to take the police and the media's word for it. And unfortunately, in New York City, they seem to be one and the same. Now, if you look closely at that picture, actually, we'll analyze that later. So then that picture was taken shortly before 6:30. Then we see another photo and a video of the shooter walking down the street, supposedly on a cell phone that was supposedly walking towards the crime scene. Original reports had that at 6:30. Okay, walking up 6th Avenue. Then what happens is 6:44, we see the shooter come out from behind an SUV in the traffic-facing direction. 54th Street is a one-way street. Comes out and shoots Brian Thompson in the back. We then see the shooter rack his slide a few times, obviously. He had to cycle the ammo due to the suppressor. We talked about that on my show some time ago. For those that don't know, a suppressor is the same thing as a silencer, and it will cause not enough. Essentially, it can interfere with the cycling of, a semi-automatic pistol. All right. So then the shooter finishes off Brian Thompson, and then doesn't run, just walks in front of the SUV. The same SUV, by the way, that illuminated its lights right before the shooter walked out, shot Brian Thompson, kept its lights illuminated, its brake lights, didn't leave. The shooter crosses in front of that SUV. We still don't know who was in that SUV. And he kind of gingerly trots across 54th Street. Now, the initial narrative said he took off on a bike, and that was it. He was gone. Well, then the official narrative always talked about the e-bike, never talked about a taxi. But then suddenly, magically, from the grainy photo of the supposed shooter in the Starbucks, from that grainy photo, shot from a top angle down, we see someone at the hostel up there on 891 Amsterdam Avenue, the High New York hostel, says, "Oh yes, I recognize that person. We have a image of him on our security cameras. Here he is." Now we see a picture of the face of the alleged killer. And then all of a sudden, we're getting really good images of the face of this guy, from taxi cabs to walking by a taxi cab, everything. All right, fast forward ahead. Then all of a sudden, the shooter is in the wind. Everyone's got theories. Who it is? Is it a professional hit? And no theory is wrong or right. They're just theories. Then suddenly on December 9th, The shooter is, or not the shooter, but we don't know who the shooter is because there hasn't been a trial yet. Luigi Mangione is arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania in the morning by the Altoona police. He's then brought to Blair County for taken into custody, brought to Blair County. And while he's at Blair County, he is not fingerprinted. There's no DNA called for or tested. This is on the official arrest report. I'm trying to call it up while I'm talking to you. I self-produce, so bear with me. So somewhere between that time when he was arrested, which I believe was later in the 9 o'clock hour on the 9th, for some reason, he was then hauled up to the correctional center, which normally, if you have a suspect, you normally keep them at the county lockup. They sent him right to the correctional center until later that day when he was brought down for the arraignment back to Blair County. And that's when you all saw the outburst where he shouted something and then they dragged him inside. Now the media had a picture of an enraged suspect. It must be him. Look at the anger. Okay, look at the anger. And let me show you an example of that. So before I get to that example, we later find out from the lawyer that eventually suspect Mangione hired, Tom Dickey. We find out from the lawyer that up to the point that Mangione was dragged in and had his outburst, it wasn't until after that outburst that he first got legal counsel. So let me kind of roll this CNN interview for you so you can see what I'm talking about. And this is interesting. I'd be curious to find out if he was offered legal counsel. I don't know. I don't know the whole process. I'm not a lawyer. I've worked on murder cases as a private investigator, just so you know. This is not my first time at the rodeo, and I've seen things like this happen before. And again, I'm not here to say Mangione's guilty or innocent. The entire point of my focus on this investigation is what I am seeing is a trial by public reaction. What I am seeing is a DA who is desperate to fix his name after literally dumping ridiculous charges on Donald Trump. And now he's trying to look like a real DA. Now, I'm not saying, again, they got the wrong guy, they got the right guy. I personally believe at this point, based on the evidence I'm seeing, they may have the wrong guy. So he is, you also have a brand new police commissioner who's under a lot of pressure to make this happen. So again, I don't want to bias you with my opinion. We'll do that on another show. I want to stick to the timeline tonight. But I do want to show you, this video is on the 11th of December. Now, on the 10th of December, Mangione's lawyer was saying at his press conference right after the arraignment, right after he became Mangione's lawyer, everyone's asking about the evidence. Do you think the evidence shows this or that? He says, I don't know. I haven't seen any evidence, which is true. He hasn't. Apparently by the rules of New York, because the Pennsylvania case is something different. For some reason, he doesn't get to see the evidence yet. Then on the 11th, he does a interview with CNN's Aaron Burnett. There we go. So now in this interview, it's very interesting what the lawyer says, because basically what he's saying is, I'm his lawyer. I'm not going to speak for him, but I haven't seen the evidence. And he explains what was going on with that timeline. I do want to point out that on the 10th, when the lawyer had said at the initial press conference that he hadn't seen any evidence, and we hadn't heard about fingerprints or anything. We heard about a cell phone. We heard about a water bottle that was found at the scene. Now they're saying the water bottle was found near the scene, and apparently near the scene means at a Starbucks more than a block away in the busiest part of Manhattan, perhaps on the busiest night you can have in Manhattan, which is the night of the tree lighting ceremony or the day of the tree lighting ceremony, where, according to some statistics I looked up, over 750,000 extra tourists come into that area. Bear in mind, the tree lighting ceremony is 300 yards away. Just laying out the facts. Okay, you draw your own conclusions. But let me play this for you. Thank God this one's ready.
He is the defense attorney for Luigi Mangione. And Thomas, I appreciate your time. And obviously you are dealing with this, your other cases as well in court today. The NYPD commissioner tonight is announcing that the gun that your client had on him when he was arrested in Pennsylvania at that McDonald's, they are saying that specific gun matches the 3 shell casings at the scene of the murder in New York. What's your response to that from the New York NYPD commissioner tonight?
Yes, Aaron, thank you for having me, first of all. Aaron, I still haven't seen that evidence. Lawyers need to see evidence. Those saying you have something and getting that admitted into court are 2 different things. In fact, so what we're talking about is fingerprint evidence and some ballistics. Those 2 sciences in and of themselves have come under some criticism in the past relative to their credibility, their truthfulness, their accuracy, however you want to do it. So that's why, as lawyers, we need to see it. We need to see how do they collect it, how much of it matches. I don't want to get too technical, but fingerprints, they go by ridges, different things like that. And then we would have our experts. We would have experts take a look at that, and then we would challenge its admissibility and challenge the accuracy of those results.
So, when you mention it's the ballistics, but also the fingerprints, when you're talking about fingerprints and the ridges on the fingerprints, you just mentioned specifically, the NYPD does say those fingerprints match the fingerprints, your client's fingerprints match the fingerprints on the water bottle and that kind bar near the murder scene. So is what you're saying that you're not sure that the methodology that they're using or the company that or however that they're matching those fingerprints, you're not confident in that?
Well, I'd have to see it. I mean, anybody can, if they're going to use it, of course they're going to say that. But you have to see things. And that's why, people need to keep an open mind. And, we would get our day in court and we would get that evidence. We can examine that evidence and challenge it. All the way.
At this point, has your client said anything to you? Or, are you disputing that he was in New York City?
The eyeglasses industry made billions keeping you in the dark, but this invention is about...
that's not proper. And again, if and when formal charges are filed, no question that my client would indicate a plea of not guilty.
No question that so you're sure it'll be a not guilty plea. Do you know when you're going to get?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah, the burden of proof is always on the government. Okay, so again, people forget that he and any other person charged with a crime is presumed innocent. That means we start off square one with a presumption of innocence of him being innocent. And the rest then follows, and then we challenge the evidence and contest it and battle it out in court where it belongs.
Right. Well, it's important though that you're indicating there's no question that he would have a plea for not guilty when he makes that plea. May I just ask you though, Thomas, just your sense of the situation they're putting out? The NYPD commissioner is saying, right, that the ballistics match. The NYPD is saying that the fingerprints match. You're saying you haven't seen this evidence. Are you frustrated that you haven't seen it? Are you trying to get your hands on that at this time?
Yeah, unfortunately, the way the process works is we don't get it right away. They don't have to give it to us, until certain times and certain spots as the case moves forward. I'm trying to get my hands on as much as I can, but again, you have to see it. You can't examine something and comment on it. And that's what's frustrating about it, because we get to see it and we get to hire our own experts and look at it and all the methodology that's involved in it and challenge it.
So when you talk about
my duty to my client, and I welcome that.
No, I understand, and that's the way this would go. I am curious, though. I know that when you've talked about his mental health, such that you've interacted with him so far, especially in the context of the rage that he displayed yesterday when he showed up at court, you said that he, from what you could see, he's able to make quote unquote knowing decisions. So it just seems to me, and I don't want to get ahead of it, but it seems to me very clear that what you're saying is that you are going to plead not guilty, not guilty by way of insanity or anything like that, just a plain and simple, clear not guilty.
Yeah. So first of all, about this outrage, he's irritated, agitated about what's happening to him and what he's being accused of. He never had any legal representation until he walked into that building yesterday. And I talked to him. And if you notice, look at the film, look at the difference between when he went in and when he come out. So once he got in, he finally had legal representation. I'd like to think he had somebody that he can trust and has faith in. And now he has a spokesperson and someone that's going to fight for him. And so I think you'll see a big difference in the demeanor. And I think that part of that, whatever you want to interpret that as yesterday, was a lot of the frustration of being a young man thrown in jail and being accused of very serious matters.
So just to be clear, and but to be clear, you didn't meet him then. So when we see that rage, you haven't had a chance at that point to have spoken to him or seen him. Your first meeting was actually when he went in the courtroom. Yeah.
No, actually, that was into a holding area, and I was on the other side of that. So my first contact with him visually, was before you had a chance to speak with him, was him coming through that door, and you saw the interaction between he and the sheriff's department, and then look at the video of him coming out, and look at the difference. He's now had legal counsel. I was upset that he didn't have any legal counsel prior to that. That extradition hearing came upon really quick, and he hadn't talked to anybody.
So, Thomas, do you know at this point why he was in Altoona?
Again, that would be their burden to prove. Again, I can't get into any communications between that occurred between my client and myself.
Have you been
I'm bound by law that I can't do that.
So I was laying out in the introduction the timeline here, right? That his mother said she spoke to him on July 1st, and then 140 days went by between that conversation and the day that she reported him missing in San Francisco. Have you had a chance to speak with her or any other family members at this point?
Again, I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to get into what my investigation has been up to this point. I appreciate the job you guys do as reporters, because I'm actually using different news reports as my source of information, because nobody's sharing these evidentiary things with me. And again, unfortunately, I can't get into my oath and my duty, my loyalties to my client, and I can't get into certain things. And again, I'm biting at the bit, so to speak, waiting to get my hands on this stuff so we can start attacking it.
Right. Now, I want to ask you one thing, if I may, before we go, and maybe you'll be able to give an answer to this one in a more fulsome way. But police say that Mangione gave them a forged New Jersey ID, when they apprehended him at that McDonald's in Altoona, and that ID, I'm showing it here, I don't know if you can see it, Thomas, but it's the ID under the name Mark Rosario when he was arrested. They say that matches the ID that the man at the hostel used in New York. That's the photo that we're showing here. That's him. There were two there. One when he is smiling at the person checking him in, and then the other one, the two times we saw his face in New York. When you look at this, and I mean, this is you as a lawyer, you as a citizen, do you think that those pictures look alike, the ID and the actual video captures that they have of the man?
First of all, I cannot see them. You threw a compound question. Being a lawyer, I am a citizen, but I'm in different roles when I'm a citizen and as a lawyer. I am Luigi's lawyer. I've entered pleas of not guilty to the charges in Pennsylvania. We have a hearing scheduled, I believe, for December 23rd. That's when they're going to at least introduce some evidence. Like I said, I'm dying to get my hands and my eyes on this stuff so I can examine.
So you don't think you're going to get that evidence until December 23rd? Let's just be clear. That's a Monday, the day before Christmas Eve.
I'm going to try to get it beforehand. Technically, under the rules, they don't have to give it to me until we have the hearing, and that's frustrating.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it is. So you would have it by that day at the latest. You're going to try to get it before then. Thomas, I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Correct.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for having me. And keep an open mind, everybody, please. Thank you.
Okay, so what's my takeaway from that? My takeaway from that exchange, and that occurred on, I believe, December 11th. And just so everyone's clear, that is his Pennsylvania lawyer. So he's facing several charges in Pennsylvania He's also fighting extradition in Pennsylvania. Luigi Mangione is for those charges. And that's important to know because he's got two lawyers. He's got the lawyer in New York that everyone is talking about because the lawyer he has in New York apparently is married to P. Diddy's lawyer. That's, to me, not really news because top lawyers are top lawyers. Mangione's family is rich. They're going to go for the top lawyer. So I don't think there's some conspiracy there. There's no connection to P. Diddy, like some people have implied in the news or at least inferred. So for me, that's just nonsense. I just put that out of my head, sticking with the facts. So the other thing that I caught from the indictment in Pennsylvania, I found was interesting is, and I want to call it up for you here. Okay, give me a second. But basically, while I'm looking for that, what I noticed on the Pennsylvania filing is that when they took him in, they did not fingerprint him. Now, is that procedure? I don't know. I just found it really, really strange. And that was on the official documentation. Let me call that up for you here. Give me a second. But yeah, that was on the official documentation. Yet on the 11th, the police in New York announced that they had a fingerprint match. So I'm sure at some point, maybe at the arraignment, who knows? I don't know. We don't know. He was fingerprinted. I mean, for sure, I would hope. But that's a pretty quick turnaround on fingerprints. Now, granted, I get it. It's the modern age. But at the same time, I just found it really, really interesting to see that. Yeah, here we go. To see that buried on the bottom of the documentation in Pennsylvania. Let me show you this. Okay. So here it is, Pennsylvania. Let me shut that out. Sorry, guys. This is always looking for a producer, always looking for a producer. Let me just call that up. All right, so we have that. Now, the other part of the timeline, also, the police did not announce in New York that they had fingerprints and DNA evidence, they actually said, at their next press conference. They didn't actually say that until the 11th, after that lawyer on the 10th in an earlier press conference said he had no evidence. Well, now they're saying, hey, we have his fingerprint on a water bottle, but the water bottle's at one of the busiest Starbucks in New York City at a time when New York City is jammed with tourists. Okay, jammed with tourists. All right, so here we go. Let me show you this. This really kind of blew my mind. All right, share this screen here. Let me see. Okay, so sorry to keep you guys in suspense like this. Let me just do the window. There we go. Okay. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. Okay. I'll blow it up as big as I can. Okay, so this is the police criminal complaint, pretty standard form when you get arrested. And what happens here is, you have all your stuff. They usually mark these things here. So this was on December 9th. They didn't request lab service. That's normally something that happens here. Okay. Normally that happens, especially in a case this big, when you're trying to catch a supposed killer. Okay. They marked down all his bio data. This is, I'm not giving away anything about this man's life that's private because this is a public document. Okay. So DNA, no DNA. Defendant fingerprinted right there. No. Now, again, not a lawyer. Maybe that's standard. I don't know. But again, I found that really interesting that on the day he was arrested, you would think the first thing they would do, especially if they are saying this is the killer, they would fingerprint him and get some DNA ASAP. But again, I don't know how Altoona runs their police. Never been a cop, so I don't really even know how these things go. I just know that these are the things I look for, and I've looked for when I've worked on murder cases for defense counsel. And then, here's the rest of the counts. I'll put these are easy to find, but I will put all these links to the, in the description of the video. So I wanted to point that out, that as of the 9th of December, at least that morning, this person had not been fingerprinted. Okay. As of the filing of this complaint, I would have thought that was a priority, but again, I don't know. I'm just giving you the facts. And speaking of facts, let me tell you something. I've been working on this case nonstop, okay? And there's a couple things that have helped me work on this case nonstop, and that is the food I eat, and a lot of that food is brought to us by our sponsors. So one of our sponsors is Native Hydrate, and you see it on your right there. And Native Hydrate, what this is from Native Path, and this is, I have tons of this. They sent me a ton of it, but this is Native Hydrate. This is I put this in water every morning, and I just, it has your amino acids, has everything, wakes you right up, keeps you going. It's great for recovery, muscle health. And then I also down a couple of these bad boys, and this is 1775 Limitless. There's like a bunch of different legal mushrooms for cognitive enhancement. It keeps me going. Yes, sleep is the most important thing, but when I don't get sleep or when I'm really focused on something like a case like this, these are the kind of things that keep me going. And, you should definitely check them out. But check out nativehydrate.com/Daily Clout. Big discount when you use the Daily Clout as your, promo code. And we really like this sponsor. They also have lots of other products I'll talk about some other time, but if you go to nativepath.com/Daily Clout, you can also get their collagen, which I put actually in my eggnog and my morning coffee. It's good for hair, muscles, bones, everything. So check it out. But for now, check out nativehydrate.com, same company, different landing page. nativehydrate.com/Daily Clout. Get some and let me know what you think. Also, you can get these variety packs for the Native Hydrate. I like this a lot because it has little packets that you can throw in your pocket, throw in your car, and always have them. So anyone who's worked late, sometimes, especially all of you detectives out there, you get focused on something and you forget to hydrate. I do it all the time. And that's why I like Native Hydrate, because I'll remember to hydrate. I'll put one of those packets in a bottle of water, shake it up. There's no clumping. Suck it right down. It's delicious. They have mixed berry, peach and mango, and tangerine. And I really like them all. So go to nativehydrate.com/Daily Clout. Okay, so back to the show. All right, so there's our back to the timeline, so I don't lose track here. So where are we at? We're at the last interview you saw was the 11th. You saw in the beginning, Alvin Bragg laid out his timeline. Okay, so let's look at some of the earlier timelines. And a lot of these you'll see, and I'm going to stop it on a couple times on this one. You've seen these, but a couple of these things you see. I'll see if you can pick it out. If you can pick it out, raise your hand in the chat or, let me know. Here's one you guys probably remember. Okay, so let's watch this together. There's no sound on this. Okay, so you may have noticed that video.
In Midtown Manhattan early this morning, 50-year-old Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, was shot and killed in what appears, at this early stage of our investigation, to be a brazen, targeted attack. The suspect approached from behind and fired several rounds, striking the victim at least once in the back and at least once in the right calf.
Okay, so that video, by the way, according to the New York Times, who produced that video apparently was from police sources. And you could see here, I want to go back to this 6:30 video. Okay, so right before, according to the New York Times, and according to the New York Times, this was according to their sources in the NYPD, and this was on the 12th. No, I'm sorry, on the 13th that this video was updated. I want you to see something. I don't know if anyone's seen this yet or even pointed this out, but I want you to look very closely at this video, okay? It says here, surveillance video exclusively obtained by the Times shows the man suspected of CEO shooting the United Healthcare CEO in the area at least 10 minutes before. 10 minutes before 6:44. Brian Thompson was pronounced dead at 7:12, I believe. Look at the timestamp on the video. This is New York City provided video. It says December 4th, 2024, Wednesday, 7:29 a.m. A full hour after they say this video was shot. Now, some people might say, oh, the timestamp is off. Well, maybe, or maybe not. Okay, maybe or maybe not. But here's the problem, is that this video has been used across multiple platforms. Okay, multiple platforms, with those platforms like New York Times and CNN and everyone saying, oh, this is official police video. This video says 7:29. This video has been cited multiple times to say this is the killer walking to the crime scene going down 6th Avenue before he turns on 54th, coming from the Starbucks into 54th Street and then kills Brian Thompson. You cannot miss the time here. 7:29. It's right there. Okay, this is not edited. And this is one of those videos that has been used to build the timeline. Now, you'll notice that when Alvin Bragg talked, he kind of omitted that part. We'll get to him in a second. Okay, let's see another one. So you can just scratch at walking down 6th Avenue at 6:30. Oh, wait, but it does beg the question, okay, why was the killer with the backpack? You saw that, right? He's got the backpack. That is, according to them, looks like the guy that shot the gun to me. Appears to be using a phone. Let's just play it again. Okay. Same shoes, same backpack. Appears to be on the phone. That's the New York Times. All right, yeah, I know they've kind of lost any faith I've ever had in them, if I ever had any, but let's look at another one. So I'm getting to a point here. The point I'm getting to is this. I feel like the media is has been from the beginning trying to build this case for the NYPD. Okay, trying to build this case for the NYPD. Now, nothing against police, nothing at all. People on the ground, they're only limited in the intelligence they get, so they go and they bust bad guys. But the DOJ knows. The DOJ would have looked at that and said, hey, let's get this to the press, and let's say this is the suspect walking right before the killing. Let's get this to them and you go with it. Unfortunately, someone forgot to crop out the timestamp because the timestamp's wrong. So it does make me wonder why at 7:30 was the killer. That looks like the killer to me. I'm not saying that's Mangione, but why was the killer walking what might be 6th Avenue? Why was he walking? Not riding a bike, not getting in a taxi, nothing. Okay, let's get another one up here. Okay, so we got, and luckily I have these ready to go. Okay, so here's an early timeline here. And we're going to talk about this one too, because there's something else I want to point out to you. And before I play this, I know this is media. Okay, I know, I get it. But media gets security footage from the police. Okay, they're not getting it from their friend. They're not getting it from some security guy. Sometimes they do. But most of the time, especially in New York, they're getting it from the police. Police is saying you can put this out. Or if they obtain video footage in an active murder investigation, they normally call the police and say, hey, we got some evidence here. Because if they don't do that, they can get criminal charges for obstructing an ongoing investigation. So they get this footage from the police, okay? And anyone can challenge me on that. All right, let's play this one. Now, this one is from the 6th of December, 2 days after this was put together by the New York Post. Okay, so let's call that up again. I'll just pause it here. Let that commercial play through. Okay, so all right, let me just pause it right there. Okay, so let me show you a couple things here. First of all, we got 5 a.m. leaving the Frederick Douglass houses. So you know the Frederick Douglass houses are catty-cornered to the hostel. Okay, so that I could see why someone would report, or surveillance, they say, shows him leaving that area. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, this one right here, I really want you to focus on this. Look at this image. Okay, let's go back. All right. Now this isn't the best image. I will put more on my Substack. Riddle me this. Okay, the Starbucks that this person was supposedly at was on 6th Avenue and I believe 57th. Okay, so Hilton, and then going north, you'd go 54th, 55th, 56th, 57th, maybe 56th. Not too far away. That's also where they said they found the water bottle and the Kind Bar wrappers. Now, what do you notice in this video? That they're maybe not saying this is Starbucks, but the way all of the captions read, this is a picture taken at the Starbucks. Never mind that this guy doesn't really look anything like the shooter, but again, how can you tell from this? Just like, how can the hostel worker see this image, which is the only image besides the shooting, and say, oh yeah, that guy was here. He was here on the 24th. Okay, but look behind him. Look at these seats. Look at these seats behind him. These don't look like any seats I've seen in a Starbucks. Now, I used to live in New York City. We do have a place in Brooklyn. I'm in New York City a lot. Yes, I go to Starbucks. Hate me tomorrow. But the thing is, I can't remember any Starbucks having that type of seating. It's like benches with like little shared tables. And I actually looked on Google. I looked at every Starbucks in a 10-block radius for seats like that. Starbucks doesn't have rows of seats like that, rows of benches with shared tables like that. They just don't. And maybe they do. Maybe there is one out there. I'd love to know where it is, because that could tell us where this guy was, because he wasn't at that Starbucks. Okay, the Starbucks that they're saying. Those seats to me look like a train station. I'm not sure which train station. I went through the train stations as well. But to me, that's the kind of stuff you'd see in an airport or a train station. Okay, look closely at them, pull up the pictures, and please, anyone who's watching this, research for me, please, and try to find where those benches are. There's better photos of this out there. This is what I got for right now. I have other ones. I just don't have time to call them up. Those benches are not in that Starbucks, okay? And just, I don't ever want anyone to just believe me because I say it, so let me show you. And I'm sure some of you are going to your maps right now, right? But let me just call up Google Maps. Okay, let's say Hilton and Starbucks. Hilton Midtown. Okay, and that really stuck out at me today. Okay, I was like, I've never seen such terrible things in a Starbucks. I mean, I personally like Starbucks. I'm as surprised that they would have anything like that, but okay. Okay, so here is, let me call it up for you. Let me call up the Starbucks that they're claiming he went to. I believe it was the one on 56. Okay, but let me just call, you know what, I'll call up any Starbucks. Let me share the screen with you. Okay. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see that. All right. Good. Okay, good. We're cooking with gas now. All right. So going to the Starbucks here. All right. This is supposedly the Starbucks that they are saying he was in. Now, it doesn't matter if this is the one or not, because you go to any of these Starbucks, you're not going to find those benches. You're just not. It looks like a train station to me. Why is that important? Okay, well, I'll tell you why that's important. Because let's just assume for a second that the police got the wrong guy. Okay, that's kind of where I'm heading personally. Let's say they got the wrong guy. Well, we got a picture of, I think it'd be hard to argue that this guy here is not the killer, whoever this guy is. But wherever that picture was taken, that's where the killer was at a certain time. We're not really sure what time it is because they've cropped out all these timestamps on some of these. So keep that in mind. Okay, and that's something I'd love to get help with. And if you want to share it with me or share it on your own show and let me know when your show is. I don't care about credit. What I really care about is getting this right and make sure the police get this right. Okay? The entire, like I said, the entire point of this, all this effort I'm putting into this, is because there's no presumption of innocence. They got a picture from a hostel worker who said, yes, I've got the guy. He looks like that guy. Okay? Looks just like that guy. Well, you decide, right? Guy. These are all the pictures he had up until the hostel worker supposedly provided those images. But now you have this picture. This is the picture, this looks like the suspect. I don't know if it is. But what do you notice here? This is supposedly from the hostel. And supposedly this came in later on that night or something, and they released this on the 5th. The police released this on the 5th at about 11 a.m. That's accurate. I saw it on their NYPD tips Twitter page. That's when they released it. I looked on their homepage, the times match when they released it. They released this photo. Okay, they released this photo. Now, you'll notice here on the right, he's wearing a black backpack. I've got 7 backpacks, so maybe he has multiple backpacks, but he has a black backpack. It's clearly not a gray backpack. Now look at this. I wish I had a side-by-side. I'm sorry, I don't. Now look at the jacket closely. Put it in your mind. This one's got raised up shoulders. This looks like roughly the same. I'm sure it's the same jacket. You can't really tell colors on a lot of security cameras, so I wouldn't put too much stock in green or tan. Now let's go back to this other guy. Okay. Let's see if they give us a better shot. There we go. Come on. Sorry, I'm trying to stop it right at the right point. Now look at his jacket. Ready? Okay. This is a totally different jacket. There's no pockets here on the breast. There's no tassels, actually. This actually looks like Gore-Tex. Okay. It looks like a Gore-Tex jacket. The other jacket the Mangione's wearing is obviously not Gore-Tex. And this backpack, again, is a way different backpack. And look, I want to point out, and I don't know if I pointed this out earlier in the show, but I do want to point out that, first of all, the backpack, they're like this very distinct backpack. I'm sure you remember that. The backpack is what they found in Central Park. Okay, this photo here supposedly was shot on the 24th. And so what I really want to point out, and so as you can see, the breast pockets, the tassels, it's a totally different jacket. To me, it looks like a totally different person. But again, you can't tell from that limited image. Now, I want to point out too, timeline-wise, after this photo was released, all of a sudden we're getting taxi cab photos, everything. Really good ones. Really good ones. And those are provided to the New York, to the police by taxi cabs. And there's some program in New York where basically it's pretty surveilled city. Okay, so let me remove that. All right, so that's one thing. So key intelligence question is, where was that first picture shot? That's key intelligence question 1 for this episode. Where was that photo of the guy with the gray backpack shot? Because it wasn't no Starbucks. Looks like a train station to me. And if it was a Starbucks, please contact me. You can contact me on X. It's at Brian O'Shea, SPI, right here. There you go. At Brian O'Shea, SPI. You DM me on X. I would love to find where that picture was taken. Because again, I've never seen a Starbucks that has rows of seat with the shared tables like you see at train stations. Think it's a train station. I'm not even sure which train station. Okay. Before I get too far, because it has already been an hour, I do have to talk about, by the way, all of these sponsors, I really like them a lot. The reason I like them a lot is because they keep me rolling. And as you could see, you can't see my desk here, but I've got a table of these products, and they don't last long. Between Naomi and I, we are constantly just using all the collagen and everything. And even our friends come over and they're like, hey, my buddy Rondell was over. He's about my age. He was over this weekend. He's like, man, my bones are just hurting because he works really hard. I was like, here, man, take some collagen. Then I realized, oh, man, I can't give him too much collagen. The other one I really, really like a lot is the Wellness Company. Now, what I like about the Wellness Company is their stuff works. I use it all the time. And right now they are really the go-to for having a great holiday. So I'm just kind of reading some of their little new products here, but yeah, so they've got ivermectin, they've got the blue cased packet, the emergency wellness kit. Really through the holidays, especially when everything's closed. And you may have noticed doctors are harder to get these days. Harder to get. Don't know why. But what I like about the Wellness Company is you don't need a gatekeeper. Okay. This stuff all comes pre-prescribed. So I told this story not too long ago, but Naomi got a tick bite, and we were able, I was freaking out. And so she called, I think it's like One Health or something like that, or whatever the online thing she uses is. And they were like, oh, yes, she has to talk to them for an hour. Where did the tick bite you? Like it matters. How long did the tick bite you? She doesn't know. And she's stuck. Well, precious time is ticking by. And I'm like, enough of this. And then I go to get the one doxycycline pill that they prescribed. And I go to Hannaford Brothers, and Hannaford Brothers' whole network is down. They can't prescribe anything. I'm like, holy cow. Now, where I live, it was already a 20-minute drive to Hannaford. Now I got to go another 45 minutes to find a CVS. And she'd have to call back the company, the One Health company, whatever it is, get them to re-prescribe and send the prescription to another pharmacy. So I get to think, I'm like, well, I got my wellness company pack. And I open it up, and we got a bunch of doxycycline that is already prescribed to Naomi. So problem solved. It was great. We still got our pill the next day because we might as well. She already paid for it, but we just threw that in the pack with us. So go to the wellness company. You go to dailyclouthealth.com/dailyclout. Use promo code everything. So if you buy anything, they'll give me a pat on the head. But whatever promo code you use, you're going to get 10% off, but use promo code everything from this show, not Daily Clout like it says there, but you're going to go to dailyclouthealth.com and use promo code everything. And if you forget, use Daily Clout. That's fine. You'll still get your discount. So check them out. We love the wellness company. I know a lot of the execs over there. I know all the doctors. They have Peter McCullough on their medical advisory board, which is awesome. Same with Harvey Risch and Dr. Drew, all good people, all good friends, all top-notch doctors. So check it out, dailyclouthealth.com, and use promo code everything to get 10% off. Okay. Make sure you get that before the holidays too, but they ship during the holidays as well. And then the other people I do want to talk about really quickly, you see that right at the bottom there is Birch Gold. Now, Birch Gold is a great sponsor. You just text Daily Clout, the word Daily Clout, all one word, to 989898. Going to get an awesome info kit. They're not going to spam you. And it's really interesting what's happening with gold right now. And you should definitely check out my videos when I interview Philip Patrick, who is Birch Gold's precious metals specialist, because China is really, really starting to encircle the gold. As a matter of fact, China pretty much runs Brazil. And since Bolsonaro got ousted out, they put in their guy Luna, whose first call when he won was to the Chinese embassy. Figure that one out in Brazil. Anyways, Brazil's now reporting that they have a gold fingerprinting technology, so they can tell if the gold you have is actually Brazilian gold. Well, to me, that is kind of telling me that they'll then make a case to take, gold from every country in the world and say, oh, it's Brazilian gold. And they've offered this technology to their neighboring countries. What's that tell me? That tells me that China and its vassals are really trying to scoop up all the gold. And we've seen that. The reason gold jumped from 1,700 an ounce to 2,700 an ounce in 1 year between 23 and 24 is that China has been on a buying spree. They've been buying all this gold. And then a lot of the satellite countries their central banks have been hoarding gold. Get gold. When, obviously the demand is up, the supply will go down, and 1,700 to 2,700 in 1 year, that's one hell of a gain. It's a great investment. I've already converted my IRA to it. They walk you through every step of the process. I really like those guys. They're awesome. And, we're going to go through some turbulent times. Also, since Trump got elected, gold actually came down a little because people have more faith in the dollar. Well, that's the best time to buy because gold is always going up, and it's a great time to buy because who knows? There could be another stolen election. We'll be back to where we were about 3 months ago or now. So go to text Daily Clout to 989898 and pump them for information because they want to give it to you, and you're going to learn so much. It's a really, really cool thing to learn about. And get your money out of some of these mutual funds and stuff they're in. Check your prospectus. You'll be shocked what your money's invested in. I was, and that's why I moved it over to Birch Gold. So get yours today. Daily Clout 989898. And feel free to write in or call in, and when I get the call thing set up, and tell me what you think. I like those guys. You're going to learn a lot. All right. Back to where I'm at. So the timeline. Okay, so then today, all right, you just heard Bragg. Let me see if I can get that back up. You just heard Alvin Bragg saying they're building the terrorism case in New York. Okay. They're building that again so they can get their murder in the first degree charge. Because again, in New York, you have to kill a judge, first responder, police officer, or commit an act of terror in order to get a first-degree murder charge. Otherwise, a second-degree murder. Now, why they're pressing for this, I'm not really sure in this case. It is kind of, I don't know why they are. Why Alvin Bragg and Tisch are saying, the commissioner, they're not giving, like, the way they're speaking, they're saying, when Mangione did this, they don't know who did it. There hasn't been a trial. They can say suspected of doing this, that'd be more appropriate. Later on in the press conference, they're talking about their voir dire process where they select jurors. And they're saying, we have no doubt he'll be able to get a fair jury, an objective jury in New York City. Are you kidding me? And Tisch goes on, I'll play it at the end when I'll play us out with it. Commissioner Tisch goes on to say, like, people, have been disgusting and calling for the death of CEOs and everything. And I agree with her. That is disgusting. But it's the media reaction and the media's audience reaction to this case that has caused widespread terror. Okay? Plain and simple. Even the real shooter, whoever that is, the only reason anyone even knew that shooting occurred, except for 2 people out on the street at 6 a.m., was because it went all over the media. Not the footage we need to identify the shooter, because seeing the shooting doesn't do anything to identify the shooter, except for the gray backpack. But it showed the world this very dramatic killer stepping center stage between 2 dome lights over there at the Hilton, stepping out into the light and shooting this guy. Okay? It was the amplification of that made it a terrorizing type of spectacle. All right? And they could have put out the press release saying, hey, a guy's been shot. He's United Healthcare's guy. Let's find this guy. Here's some images we have of his face. They didn't have to show the graphic footage. Okay, but that causes the terror. Now, speaking of timelines, in my opinion, and I've seen this before, there's a case down in Virginia I worked. We'll talk about that next episode, called Commonwealth of Virginia versus Terrence Calloway. In that case there, Terrence Calloway was accused of stabbing a guy named Shaquille. And even though the last person seen with Shaquille was Terrence Calloway's estranged wife, Shaquille was stabbed in the heart. No signs of no defense wounds or anything like that. Stabbed right in the heart with a kitchen knife. Last person he's seen with is Pamela Calloway. The cops get to the scene. Pamela Calloway appears all crying and everything. There's no Terrence anywhere. That's her estranged husband. And she says Terrence did it. The cops never even looked for a murder weapon. They went right after all over manhunt for Terrence. When they had Terrence, when they caught him, Terrence had no DNA on him. He had blood on his T-shirt from where he hit his head on the Penske truck when his wife wouldn't give him his clothes. No DNA on him at all. Later on in the case, I found out that Pamela had a history of stabbing people, including Terrence, in the face with a kitchen knife. There were kitchen knives missing from her house, which is right across the way. She's the last person seen with the victim. Do you know that Terrence Calloway, even though we were able to prove all this beyond a shadow of a doubt, he still spent a year in jail because the Commonwealth kept pushing this case. Now, it ended in a mistrial, thank God, and the guy got out. Had Terrence not been lucky to get the lawyer that ended up hiring me, a guy named Michael Hadid, one of the best criminal defense lawyers in Virginia at the time, Terrence got lucky. Michael happened to be in the courtroom that day, and the judge said, "Hey, Michael, you're not busy. You take this case." Judge can do that. They could just assign cases. And Michael dug in. He's like, you know what? This will be my last case before I retire, and I really think this guy's innocent, which is normally not something a defense lawyer says. But I said, well, let's see what the facts say, and he hired me, and we did it. We broke it down. But with all the evidence is still the Commonwealth had invested so much in this case in terms of publicity and money and manpower and man hours, they would not let it go. And it took a year to get that case ruled as a mistrial. So is that happening here? Maybe. There's a lot of political pressure on Alvin Bragg to get one right. Because let's think about it. Just hypothetically, and again, these aren't facts, it's Brian O'Shea's opinion, not even a theory, but let's just say hypothetically, it turns out to be the wrong guy. Well, how is that going to look for every other case in New York that was prosecuted using crowdsourcing like they did and video footage? That's going to be a big problem, isn't it? It's going to be a big problem for his Donald Trump case too, isn't it? Credibility gone. He's going to have trouble really being a lawyer after that. So he's got, now that Mangione's in custody, in my opinion, he's got to make a Mangione. He's got no choice, Alvin Bragg. That's just my opinion, but that's what it looks like to me. I think a big reason the police went way overboard, in my opinion, with the media involvement. Now keep in mind, there's like 300 murders a year in New York City. We saw horrific murders by illegal aliens, by all sorts of people. Even the guy that gassed the subway, did it get this much media attention? Okay, this got a lot of media attention. And I think the reason it got so much is because December 4th was the tree lighting. Huge, huge tourism day. Huge tourism day. But there's also some egg on the face of, what's her name? Tish. And here's why. I just happened to find this speaking in Thailand. So December 4th, what ended up happening was Tish, Commissioner Tish, I just keep saying that because I'm worried I'm going to get her name wrong. What ended up happening there was she put out this little nugget on the day before this shooting. Yeah, December 3rd. Here's the press release that came out by the NYPD. Look at that. What a miracle. Hey, everyone coming to see the tree. Crime's down in the city. The overall index decreased. This is for November, but this went out on December 3rd. Okay? December 3rd. And she talks about murders, everything's reduced, everything's great. And this went out at, looks like at the end of the day on the 3rd, right before all the people are coming in for the tree lighting. And then the next day she has this crime right in the central part of Midtown where most people go besides Times Square. This is the big, big area. So that's, just mark that in your timeline. That's December 3rd. It's interesting. It doesn't really mean much in terms of the facts of the case, but I do want to put that out. Lots of pressure. She is a new commissioner, by the way. Now, finally, I will get to this, and then we're going to wrap it up because there's a lot to go through, and I could sit here all night. I sat here for 4 hours the other day going through every aspect of this case, and I don't think my body can handle that. Of course, I got my friends at the wellness company and our other sponsors like Native Hydrate that can help me along, but that's probably a bad idea to not get any sleep. And then, yes, I will answer comments that are popping up in just a second. So I put this Substack out today, and I just want to share it with you if you didn't get a chance to see it. Okay. Post. There we go. All right. And you don't have to subscribe to read this. You can actually just read it, just so you know that. Okay. So let me This one I'll just read to you because there's really nothing to see here. Okay, so and I'll put the link in the thing. All right, so how did Mangione, alleged to be Brian Thompson's shooter, know to case the Hilton on the 24th of November? Okay, well, a lot of people say, well, there was a press release. They announced it. Well, guess what? And by the way, I didn't even know this. It was Josh Boswell at the Daily Mail Online. He had called me after a previous show. We were talking about this case, and he actually mentioned this to me this morning. And good work, because I didn't even look at this. United Healthcare did not announce the investors conference at the Hilton until the 26th. Okay, the 26th. So let that sink in, okay? Let that sink in. They don't announce it till the 26th. Yet, even Alvin Bragg is saying that this was well planned, and his words exactly were that Mangione went to New York City on the 24th of November with the intent of murdering. He went there to murder Brian Thompson. Okay, maybe. But here's the problem. If that's really the case, how would Mangione know there was an investors conference on the 4th of December if it was not announced till the 26th? Maybe there's an earlier announcement out there. Maybe Mangione knows, I don't know, someone at United Healthcare, who knows? But that's their case. They're saying he went there on the 24th to murder. And it wasn't even that dramatic when I wrote this. That what came out in the press conference. So here is from the criminal complaint. This complaint was signed by Yusuf Demes. These are his statements. Okay, so it says here and if, by the way, it's brianoshea.substack.com if you want to read it for yourself. Please subscribe. You could subscribe for free. Paid subscriptions really help me do these investigations and dedicate more time to them. But, it's there for everyone to see. Paid subscribers do get to comment. Unpaid do not. That's how I keep down the trolls. Sorry. But yeah, your support does help, because I think these are important investigations. These are protecting our justice system, not me alone, but really it's important that we make the police do a job. And it's important that the defense gets a fair shake. You may not like the defense. They might be guilty as hell, but it could be you. It could be you. You might get accused of doing something you didn't do. Then you're really going to want that presumption of innocence. And if we let this be the standard, we're in a world of hurt. Okay, we're in a world of hurt. And I don't know about you, but it'll probably be the last time I go to New York City for the tree lighting or anything. I'll be too scared of getting arrested for something. All right, so according to the official warrant filed by ADA Joel Seidemann with the criminal court of City of New York, County of New York, I think this was filed on or about December 12th. They don't have a date on it. He states in this warrant, surveillance footage that I have reviewed from the same hostel that depicts the same man checking into the hostel on November 24th, 2024 at about 11:20 p.m. and showing a driver's license upon check-in. Okay, they allege that that is a fake ID. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Okay, and that's the citation right there. You can see it here. There's a statement right there. I put it on the Substack for you. I never make people take my word for anything. That alone is not really that questionable. But then, on December 12th, 2024, NYPD Chief of Detectives Joseph Kenney, you saw him in the press conference, told NBC News New York the following. These are his words. Mangione arrived in New York City's Port Authority bus terminal on November 24th aboard a bus that originated in Atlanta. Police are not sure when or where he boarded that bus, however. Later in the same interview, Detective Kenney goes on. After arriving in the city, Mangione got a taxi and immediately goes to a McDonald's in the vicinity of the Hilton Hotel. We can assume he's talking about the Hilton in question, said Kenny. From there, he went to the hostel where he was staying until the day of the shooting, and he stands accused of. Kenny said Mangione was coming and going on a regular basis from the hostel and was seen on security camera footage with an e-bike battery. To me, this looks like they're trying to build a case. You'll also notice that Bragg said that the shooter left 89th Street on his e-bike and then got in a taxi. Question for you. If he's carrying an e-bike battery, okay, this isn't Holland. Like, you don't take your e-bike battery off. If you get a Citibike, you do your little code and you plug it in, it unlocks and you go. You don't take the battery off. You just put it in another e-bike rack. In fact, I don't even know if he can take the battery off. So that would imply that he owns his own e-bike. So why would he get a taxi if he already has an e-bike? Makes no sense. Makes no sense. Well, also, up until that press conference, I'd never heard that part about him getting off at 89th Street and then getting a taxi, which also makes no sense because he's pretty close to home at that point. Why would he get in a taxi? Well, I think that's Alvin Bragg filling in the blank of, like, why do they have taxi pictures? That fills in that blank for them. That helps support that part of their official timeline. So, I point that out because that to me, it sounds like, I don't know, I just something about this case. Like, again, taxis weren't even mentioned until we had pictures of Mangione, who we can assume is Mangione, in a taxi. But up till then, there were no witnesses saying he got in a taxi. As a matter of fact, the official timelines you see all have him going on the bike, going on a Citibike. There is a Citibike rack right outside the hostel. There's a Citibike rack almost on every corner in New York, but there's one right outside the Starbucks. So why all of a sudden in the taxi? I don't know. Are they have information we don't have? Yeah, probably. It's an ongoing investigation. But again, they never explained how they had the taxi cab footage until this press conference. And it kind of fills in the blanks because a lot of people online have been saying, hey, wait a minute, you said he was on the bike. And that to me is Alvin Bragg responding to the public. Oh, no, this is why he was in a taxi. But again, you're not taking a battery off a Citibike. I mean, maybe you can, but like, I've ridden Citibikes. The electric bikes are great. They're a lot of fun. They're better than a taxi. You get places quicker. And they go pretty fast. I mean, to take the battery off of any e-bike, you would have to be maybe not on a Citibike. Maybe there's another company, but typically you take the battery off your own e-bike so no one steals it. I have a Yamaha e-bike. You just remove the battery. You can lock the battery. But if you have a Citibike, you're just going to park it in another rack. I don't know why you would park it in a rack and then get a taxi unless you want people at the hostel to see you arriving on a Citibike, which again, wouldn't be that weird because it's a hostel. Pretty much everyone's arriving on a Citibike. They're all, younger people. All right. So that is the other part of the timeline. So I can't take credit for the 24th, 26th thing. I honestly did not know that until Josh Boswell of the the Daily Online told me about that. I was like, oh, and then I mentioned him. I said, wait a minute, they've been saying that he was casing the place. And Josh was like, oh yeah, that's right. I said, well, that sounds like BS then. Why would he be casing a Hilton hotel that he doesn't know anything's going to happen at? You see what I mean? Kind of see. And this is the defense. Hopefully we'll see this and hopefully get these questions asked. But there's a reason we have a standard of reasonable doubt, because this timeline that the police have put together, this timeline that Bragg is talking about, the fact that they really weaponized the public to make this such a big issue. And it's a big deal. God rest his soul for Brian Thompson. But for them to say, okay, well, everyone calm down now, you shouldn't be saying bad things, and you shouldn't. But at the same time, it's like, I think they jumped the gun, the police. And I'll say it for the record, and I could be wrong, but in my opinion, at this point, based on the facts I've seen, and I've gone through a lot, not everything I can cover here, but I'll try to cover it in the next few days. I don't think that's the guy. There, I said it. So remember, let me end on this. Okay. First of all, the media on the left needs to stop making this about healthcare. So the legacy media, the left-wing media, whatever you want to call it, has made this about private healthcare companies being greedy pirates, and maybe they are. But that whole system went really, really bad under Obamacare. And I don't hear anyone on the left saying, yeah, we really got to look at Obamacare. That's part of the problem. And it is. Okay, so if they want to like vilify the healthcare industries, go ahead. But what they're really doing is they're really pushing for socialized healthcare. Okay, all of the protests you've seen, like people protesting at United Healthcare, that's by a group called People's Action. Okay, People's Action, you can actually trace some of their funding back to, yes, George Soros. They also do climate change. They also were, ironically, they were also very pro-mask mandate, all that, which is funny because the first COVID czar, okay, Andy Slavitt, used to be the United Healthcare CEO himself and was investigated by the Senate back in the day. I find that really interesting. He later became the guy in charge of Obamacare, which led to, in my opinion, the horrible kind of industry we have now. So by putting pressure on all these healthcare companies, what you're doing is you're forcing them to not lower prices. You're forcing them to consolidate even more and become bigger monopolies. Bigger monopolies. And you know who's laughing? Obama and Obamacare, because they're making a ton of money on this. Okay, so that's the left. You got to stop doing that. Pay attention to it. Pay attention to what they're saying. Now, right-wing conservative pundits, you heroes and heroines throughout the entire nightmare that was Joe Biden, loved you for it. I'm one of you. I'm MAGA all the way. You know that. You have got to start presuming innocence. You might not like this guy, but what I don't like that I saw happen is the minute that we saw this kid was rich and went to a really nice college, everyone assumed he's a lefty. You don't know his politics. Have you all gone through his tweets and realized this guy seems pretty apolitical, or that his cousin is a Republican delegate? Okay, I'm not saying this is a good guy, he's innocent or guilty. What I am saying is the conservative pundits, I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are, people I respect and listen to and know, all assumed, all were broadcasting and still are, saying things like, well, the reason he did it. I haven't seen one outlet except for Glenn Greenwald and myself, maybe a couple others I haven't seen, and even Time Magazine. Those are the only three I've seen. Myself, Glenn Greenwald, Time Magazine. I haven't seen really anyone on the right, my friends, my people, saying, hey, pump your brakes, we got to presume innocence. Because we do. Because that's what makes this legal system in our country wonderful, is that presumption of innocence. There's not really many countries that have that, if any. So you're just as bad as the left-wing people, the left-wing pundits, who were saying Trump was guilty before there was a trial, who were saying Trump was guilty for this and this, when they had no presumption of innocence. You have to presume innocence. And yes, I am lecturing because I am pissed off about this. I'm pissed off to see it coming from my own people. You have to presume innocence, even if, let's say the guy is a lefty. Let's say the guy dresses in rainbows every day and is a trans guy, whatever. He still gets a presumption of innocence, or they all get every American gets a presumption of innocence under our legal system. So right-wing pundits, you know who you are. If you say something like, well, I believe the reason he did it, I think this, no, you're not presuming innocence. And you're not inside of his head. No one knows why he did it. Alvin Bragg doesn't know why this guy was shot. And no one knows that Mangione even did it. And his lawyer's right. There's really no good evidence in this case. It's all circumstantial at this point until we see it. So left, quit pushing your socialized medicine on us through this case. You're making things worse. You're the reason why people are threatening CEOs. You're pumping that up. That looks organized. I'm sure if we go to Action Network, we could find one, or if we go to Open Collective, we could find one of your little campaigns. And yes, People's Action, I'm talking to you. Look them up, People's Action. Okay, and right-wing pundits and conservatives that are doing this, stop. Start presuming innocence and start acting like Americans, because you're acting just like the left was acting with Donald Trump. And oh, by the way, when you're parroting the official narrative without even researching it, well, guess what? You're helping Alvin Bragg. Just let that sink in for you. You're helping Alvin Bragg. Don't help the defendant. Don't help Alvin Bragg. Help justice. Help the legal system stay pure or get back to being pure. And do your work. Be the Americans you say you are. Research it. You might not like it. You might not like when people burn a flag even, but you know what? These are her laws. And if you don't want presumption of innocence anymore, change the laws. Right now, those are our laws, and that's what we have. So everyone, I'd rather you shut the hell up and do some research. Lord knows I've done it. Sounds like Glenn Greenwald has done it. Even Time Magazine seems like they've done it. And you know what? I can't believe I can say this, but to his credit, a guy I shouldn't like at all because he attacked my wife, but Ken Klippenstein has done some decent reporting on United Healthcare and some of these things around there. Ken Klippenstein also was the guy who published the manifesto, quote unquote, that was found with Mangione. I don't think it's a Mangione. I don't think it's a manifesto. I think it's a 262-word kind of ramble about someone's feelings. I don't see any admission to any crime in that. You can read it on Ken Klippenstein's Substack. I don't agree with his politics, but I got to say, Ken Klippenstein has at least held the legacy media to task for not publishing that manifesto because they didn't think we could handle it, or they thought it would encourage copycat violence, even though they're the ones saying, you know, all these bad things about healthcare. You see what I mean? So everyone, cool your jets, do the work, investigate everything, please. Please. Because it could be you on that stand. It could be you in that McDonald's wondering how the hell your face, if that's what happened, got plastered everywhere. And we've all been there. Or we will all be there. Trust me. All right, that's enough. Everyone, please go to my Rumble channel and please go ahead and follow me on Rumble. Check out my Substack if you get a chance. It's right there under my name. I'm posting a lot more than I used to, but this is really what I do. This is what I'm good at, and that is investigations. Better at this than political type investigations. So there we are. Thank you so much for joining me. I did promise I'd mention that I'd address some of these comments. So we have Roscoe Sings. Okay, and thank you. So Roscoe tried to pay $5 to my Rumble, but it didn't go through. We'll figure that out, Roscoe. You know, for the same price, you could subscribe to my Substack, and then maybe I'll even throw you a gift one. But thank you, Roscoe. I really appreciate that. So we'll figure out what's going on there. Blue Wolf, regular person in the audience. I hope you're well. Just caught you were on now. Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm really bad at announcing these things. I'm really bad at announcing these things. I'll get better. But thanks for being here, Blue Wolf. Good to see you. Maybe Alvin and Tish need to retire. Yes, Liberty. Retire. I think they need to be investigated. These people are just throwing the law around like it doesn't matter. Ernie, my cousin Ernie, there he is. Finally get to see his face. Me and Ernie, that's my actual cousin. We had a big, long talk today. He went to a psychic. Well, there's some good psychics out there. I doubt this guy did, but, maybe he did. But whoever the shooter was, I believe the shooter probably had a surveillance team, and they're probably as good as psychics in some cases. So good to see you, Ernie. I saw a woman's face in one of the photos that was supposedly Mangrove Roscoe. Mangione. Really? Send that to me. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I'd like to see that. I get it. So you saw a woman's face in one of the photos that was supposedly Mangione. Got it. I bet that was autocorrect. That was not the moon's phase. Okay, I don't think that was meant for me, but the moon was awesome these last few days. Yes, good to see you, Hot Pursuit. Great name. Pray for us for sure. Pray for us. We got to preserve this justice system. We have to. It's under attack. I mean, look beyond this case on that one. There's a lot going on here. Never seen seating like that at Starbucks. Thank you, Roscoe. I've never seen seating like that at Starbucks. Everyone, get to every train station. Get to every Starbucks. If you see those type of benches, please, I will put up a special Substack with just a bunch of pictures. We got to find those seats. I think that's key. I think that's of key importance. Courthouse seats. Ooh, not bad, Roscoe. It could be courthouse seats or a renovated courthouse that became something else. Train station court. Yeah, you're right, though. They look like something municipal to me. Okay. Big thumbs up from Hot Pursuit. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Good. I agree. The American Dreamer. Appreciate you doing this on Rumble. Thanks. Yeah, I love Rumble. Rumble's great. Honestly, it's on Twitter and stuff, but I love Rumble the best. It's awesome. Okay, and it's on Daily Clout's Rumble because my CEO/wife kindly asked me not to do it on my own Rumble because it's distracting the audience. And, they do kind of provide me the platform to do this. So I appreciate that. So that's why we are always on the Daily Clout Rumble. By the way, go to dailyclout.io. Check out our other shows. Should put a banner up for that. Okay. But yeah, lots of good shows over at Daily Clout. Check them out. They're really good. Okay. Well, I'll just put mine up. There we go. But that is the Daily Clout Rumble for this show right there, scrolling across the bottom. Okay, back to the comments. Okay, so Blue Wolf 2000, spot on, Brian. Presumption of innocence is the very core of our founding. Too many people are devoid of recognizing nudging, projection, manipulation, and downright psyops. I'm glad you said nudging. Everyone should read the book called Nudge. I forgot who wrote it, but a lot of things in that book will look very familiar in terms of pushing the vaccines, pushing COVID, pushing Ukraine, and even pushing this. They swarm like birds. Absolutely. And I'm very disappointed to see our own people jumping on the bandwagon, jumping on the Alvin Bragg bandwagon. That's the funniest part. They let Alvin Bragg stick his hand right up their back and move their mouth. I don't even think they realized they were doing it. Okay, totally. All right. Sorry, Rumble sent my chat twice. No worries. What was the dog's name and breed that was in her dream? I don't know what you're talking about. But if you're talking about my wife had a dream about dogs, she probably dreamed about our dog Mushroom, who left us about 2 years ago. He's 18 years old. He was a mutt, mainly a Shih Tzu poodle, but kind of muddy. He had other things going on in there. Our current dog is Loki. He's sleeping right here with this cool sweater on at my feet. So yes, let's go. So you're talking, Mushroom. Yeah, that was our old dog. You could go through my Twitter and you can see old pictures of him. I actually drove Mushroom. He's 18 years old. That dog is old. But I actually drove him across the country with me. Naomi had to speak in Michigan. We drove from New York. Well, first we drove to Maine, then we drove to Michigan, stopped at a few places along the way, and then she had to go see her mom in Oregon where we were headed, but she had to get there for an event. So we dropped her off at the airport, and then me and Little Mushroom Man, we drove through the vast open spaces of America. It was beautiful. And I let that dog get out at every state line to sniff the air so he could have that experience before he passed away, because he was pretty close. But yeah, he left us peacefully, and thanks for bringing him up. He was a good dog. He's a great dog, my little soulmate. So, all right, everyone, thank you for joining me. There will be more. I will put out more information as I have it. Please check out my Substack. You got my latest on there. I will be putting out more. Hopefully Josh Boswell he was writing an article about this case too. He's going to have some more detail in that. And in the bottom of my Substack, I also put Josh's information. Was very happy to see a journalist interested in actually investigating something. So hats off to Josh. But thanks for joining me tonight. And I will see you all probably really soon. Blue Wolf, I promise you, I will announce it more than 2 hours ahead of time. But you could always go to Rumble and see the replay of this anytime. Let me see if there's a good video I can play on the way out just to give you more information like I normally like to. Let me see what I got here. Okay, so just trying to find a long one for you. You know what? Yeah, they're all about the same length. CNN. Okay. Well, I will, tell you what, I will just leave you with something here. But anyways, thanks for joining me. Sorry, I'm kind of discombobulated here. Aha, there's a good one. I put together a few like mashups too. Evolving coverage. Ooh. That looks pretty good. Let's do that one. Okay, so I call this one Evolving Coverage. I will let this play out. And I'll see you later. Thanks for joining me.
Urgent manhunt for the suspect who gunned down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside a New York City hotel. Our senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky, is at the hotel with the latest on the investigation. Good morning to you, Aaron.
Good morning to you, Robin. 24 hours after this assassination-style killing, the killer is at large, but he left behind a trail of clues here at the scene that may lead police to him and to a possible motive, suggesting anger with the insurance industry. This morning, a frantic manhunt for the man authorities spotted on this surveillance video shooting and killing Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. Police said it was no accident.
Every indication is that this was a premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack.
The gun appears to have a silencer and jammed. When the shooter cleared it, police say he fired again.
From watching the video, it does seem that he's proficient in the use of firearms, as he was able to clear the malfunctions pretty quickly.
All units be advised in regards to a confirmed male shot in the confines of Midtown North.
Police say it was around 6:45 a.m. Wednesday when the suspect, pictured at a Starbucks before the shooting, gunned down Thompson as he was walking alone into the Hilton for an investors conference. And in new video overnight, the shooter seen here about 20 minutes before the shooting.
They're looking for a male, about 5 feet 10 inches in height, cream-colored jacket, black mask, black gloves.
This eyewitness snapping a picture of the suspect as he fled.
I was shocked, and I feel that he could shoot me too.
By the time police arrived, the suspect had run off and hopped a bicycle to get away. Detectives now working to determine whether he had pre-positioned that bike close by. New video overnight showing the suspect pedaling his bike on the Upper West Side. Officers found the 50-year-old insurance executive and father of two collapsed on the sidewalk. Did he have any known enemies or anyone that you've been able to find so far?
We're reaching out to law enforcement in Minnesota, and we're also interviewing his co-workers and family members to see if there have been any specific threats against him in the past.
To have a pillar of the community in New York, admittedly, for a stockholder meeting, to be gunned down on the street is just so foreign.
Even as the leader of a large corporation, Thompson did not have a security team with him. Investigators say they found shell casings with writing on them, including the words deny, defend, and depose. They also say they found a cell phone, granola bar wrappers, and a water bottle they believe are linked to the shooter. This brazen assassination-style killing coming at the height of the holiday season while New York is packed with tourists for the nearby lighting of the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. The NYPD increased patrols and security in the subways.
You know, day-to-day in New York is really scary, and I think that everyone here is doing their part to make sure that we have a safe event here.
A family is now grieving this loss. Thompson's wife, Paulette, telling ABC News, "We are shattered to hear about the senseless killing of our beloved Brian. Brian was an incredibly loving, generous, talented man who truly lived life to the fullest and touched so many lives." Police have not identified the suspect, but they are building a profile, Robin, of a man with a grudge, possibly against United Healthcare or the insurance industry in general. Robin.
And Aaron, what about the writings on those bullet casings? What does that tell police?
That could be another clue toward motive. To take the time to actually write on the shell casings indicates not only premeditation, but also a deeply personal type killing. And those words, deny, depose, defend, those are words often associated with the insurance industry. Robin?
All right, our thanks to you, Aaron.
About a motive.
So far, it does appear that the victim was specifically targeted, but at this point, we do not know why. This does not appear to be a random act of violence.
Joining me from the scene of the shooting is our Morgan Norwood, also former NYPD Chief of Detectives Bob Boyce. So Morgan, detectives have now recovered a water bottle, a candy wrapper, and other things I understand from the area where the shooter apparently was. Are we waiting on DNA now?
Yeah, I believe that's where police are in terms of the investigation. Look, they're going to run all of this through forensics and DNA, trying to pick up whatever they can in terms of evidence to lead them to this particular shooter. We also, in the past few minutes or so, also got that wanted poster, which is, of course, going to be blasted not only over TV stations, but also all around the city. I mean, they want as many eyes on this as possible as they try to track down this guy. But again, we've been playing the surveillance video as well. You can see him walk up to Brian Thompson and right before firing that gun. Also, we understand that gun also got jammed. He had to reload and try again, ran off into an alley, picked up a Citibike, and then later dumped that as well, which we know police were able to track and use GPS technology. But look, I mean, this was a high-profile individual, a lot of resources being thrown at this particular case. You can see the scene is teeming with police officers. Even hours later, they've been going door to door, trying to get surveillance video, more surveillance video, and of course, talking to anyone who has been in contact with Brian Thompson within the past few days to try to figure out who would want to target him, and then secondary to that would be the motive. Why?
And Bob, look, this is your expertise. What's going through your mind when you think about a motive here and the fact that it looks like it's a targeted murder?
It's definitely a targeted murder. You can see everything screams it. I don't think this man's a professional by any means. He goes way too far away. He shoots Mr. Thompson. Professional would have got a lot closer. When he cleared the gun, he dropped 3 rounds, 3 live rounds. So that's not a professional action or reaction to a jammed gun. And then he runs away. And then he uses a Citibike, excuse me, which usually we can get a lot of forensics from that. And also the cell phone, which has not fully been developed. These forensic pieces will take a while. If it's true about the water bottle and the candy wrapper, that they may be able to get a DNA profile from that, but that takes a while too, and it has to be put into a database and to see if he's in there. So that's something that will come up at the end of the investigation. Right now, you see a much better picture put up by Crime Stoppers, and that's the search is on for that individual right now who saw him, and they're waiting on information coming from the public. Maybe someone saw him in a hotel someplace, and he was wearing that outfit. That would be a tremendous boost to the investigation.
So Morgan, for Thompson's family, a father and a husband senselessly killed during the holidays, what are his loved ones saying now?
You can just imagine, Kira, how devastated they are. I mean, as you pointed out, this is right before the holidays. We know that he was a father of two. In fact, within the past couple of hours, we did get a statement from his wife, Paulette, who wrote in part, I'm going to read a little bit of it. She says, quote, "We are shattered to hear about the senseless killing of our beloved Brian. He was an incredibly loving, generous, talented man who truly lived life to the fullest." She goes on to add that he was an incredibly loving father to our two sons and will greatly be missed. Now, she did not comment on the case specifically in terms of what may have led up to this, but her sister-in-law said that she was unsure what could have possibly led to this incident, again echoing that and saying that their family is, of course, heartbroken at this time. Kira.
We'll follow the story and the continued search for this shooter. Morgan Norwood, Bob Boyce, thanks, guys.
Some breaking news. New York City police are giving an update on a deadly shooting in Midtown Manhattan targeting the CEO of United Healthcare. Let's listen.
At this early stage of our investigation to be a brazen, targeted attack. This does not appear to be a random act of violence. The victim was in New York City to speak at an investor conference. It appears the suspect was lying in wait for several minutes. And as the victim was walking to the conference hotel, the suspect approached from behind and fired several rounds, striking the victim at least once in the back and at least once in the right calf. Many people passed the suspect, but he appeared to wait for his intended target. The suspect fled, first on foot, then on an e-bike, and was last seen in Central Park on Center Drive early this morning. The victim was removed to Roosevelt Hospital, where he was pronounced. We've been in touch with his family, his friends, and his colleagues, and they are very much in our thoughts and prayers at this hour. The full investigative efforts of the New York City Police Department are well underway, and we will not rest until we identify and apprehend the shooter in this case. The women and men of the NYPD take enormous pride in the work that they do each day and each night to drive down crime and violence in our city. Right now, we are asking the public for your help. If you have any information about this case, call Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. We have increased the reward in this case to $10,000. I want to be clear. At this time, every indication is that this was a premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack. Millions of people will be enjoying the tree lighting tonight, among other holiday events, and the NYPD will be out there with them, keeping them safe. For some preliminary details about today's tragic incident, I pass it over to our Chief of Detectives, Chief Joe Kenny.
Thank you, Commissioner. The information I'm about to give you is preliminary as our investigation is continuing. This morning at 6:46 a.m., patrol officers from Midtown North Precinct responded to a 911 call of a person shot in front of the Hilton Hotel located at 1335 Avenue of the Americas. This is between West 53rd Street and West 54th Street. At 6:48 a.m., officers arrive and find the victim, Brian R. Thompson, a 50-year-old male, on the sidewalk in front of the Hilton with gunshot wounds to his back and leg. Mr. Thompson was removed by EMS to Roosevelt Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 7:12 a.m. Mr. Thompson is the CEO of United Healthcare and resides in Minnesota. Detectives from Night Watch, Midtown North Detective Squad, and Manhattan South Homicide responded to the scene and began their investigation. What we know is that the shooter arrived at the location on foot about 5 minutes prior to the victim's arrival. He stands alongside the building line as numerous other people and pedestrians pass him by. From video, we see at 6:44 a.m., the victim is walking alone towards the Hilton after exiting his hotel across the street. We believe the victim was headed to the Hilton Hotel to attend the United Health Group Investors Conference that was scheduled to start at 8 a.m. The shooter appears to be a light-skinned male. He's wearing a light brown or cream-colored jacket, a black face mask, black and white sneakers, and a very distinctive gray backpack. The The shooter steps onto the sidewalk from behind the car. He ignores numerous other pedestrians, approaches the victim from behind, and shoots him in the back. The shooter then walks toward the victim and continues to shoot. It appears that the gun malfunctions as he clears the jam and begins to fire again. The shooter then flees on foot northbound into an alleyway between 54th Street and 55th Street. Once at West 55th Street, the shooter continues to walk westbound on Avenue of the Americas, where he gets onto an electric Citibike and rides northbound on the Avenue of Americas towards Central Park, where at 6:48 a.m., we have the shooter riding this bike into Central Park at Center Drive. At the scene, we recover 3 live 9mm rounds and 3 discharged 9mm shell casings. The motive for this murder currently is unknown, but based on the evidence we have so far, it does appear that the victim was specifically targeted. But at this point, we do not know why. This does not appear to be a random act of violence. We are seeking information from the public to help identify the shooter. As the commissioner said, we have upped the reward up to $10,000 for information. You're urged to contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS. All information will be kept anonymous. Thank you very much.
All right, well, I'm going to open up to a couple of questions. We're going to start off with Shimon, CNN.
So it's about an hour and 20 minutes before the start of the conference. Is there any indication that he was going to meet someone? Because it's pretty early. Is he on his way to meet someone there at the conference?
He leaves the hotel dressed like he's going to be attending the conference. We're working with his co-workers and other people that he planned on attending the conference with to get that information. But as of right now, he's in charge of the conference, so we believe he was getting there to help set up.
And then just the Citibike, if I may. Do we know where that Citibike is now? Does he dock it or does he keep riding it?
We're still tracking video. The last we see with him on that bike is in Central Park.
Is there a way to track that bike?
There are GPSs on those bikes. We'll be working with the company.
All right, we're going to move on. We're going to go NJ Burkett.
Thank you. Chief, were any words exchanged? If so, what were the words? I'm told a cell phone was recovered in an alleyway on his escape route. Does that appear to be connected to the suspect?
We're working through that cell phone. Obviously, we'll be processing it forensically. And as far as words being exchanged, we do not have audio of the incident. We only have the regular video.
But nothing from witnesses?
Nothing from, well, there was one witness standing right next to the victim when he was shot. We're still trying to identify that victim. Excuse me, that witness.
We're going to go to Aaron Katursky.
Thank you. Chief, was he checked into the hotel across the street alone? Was he in the city alone? Was he accompanied by anybody? Did he have any known enemies or anyone that you've been able to find so far?
Like I said, we're reaching out to law enforcement in Minnesota, and we're also interviewing his co-workers and family members to see if there have been any specific threats against him in the past. As far as who was he in the hotel with, we're doing a search warrant in his hotel room right now. That might lead us, give us some more information.
All right, we're going to go over to Dean Moses.
A couple of questions. One, based on the surveillance you've seen of this individual, do you feel like he's professional? You mentioned that he did a good spell. Do you feel like this was a professional individual who took his man's life? And also, will it affect in any way tree life tonight?
I'll answer the part about whether or not he's a professional. That, we have no way of knowing that. From watching the video, it does seem that he's proficient in the use of firearms, as he was able to clear the malfunctions pretty quickly. But as far as the tree lighting, I'll leave that to Chief Magic.
Yes. Good morning, Dean. Just really quick, this incident will not affect the tree lighting. The tree lighting is slated to start at 7 p.m. The show, the actual lighting of the tree will be close to 10 o'clock, actually 9:55 p.m. We will have a massive police presence out there around Rockefeller Center from 52nd Street all the way down to 47th Street. We will have plainclothes out there, a plainclothes detail out there. We will have our CRC assets, our strategic response group assets. We will have our intel division out there, a lot of assets out there to make sure people can come out and have a good time. And we're going to have additional police officers in the subways as well, so people can take mass transit to make it easier to travel into the city and enjoy the tree. This is a terrible event, but we're going to go on, and people are going to enjoy the tree lighting tonight.
All right, we're going to move on to Marsha Kramer.
I wonder if you could tell me, the mayor said that there was evidence recovered at the scene that would indicate that this was not a random event. I wonder if you could tell me what that evidence was. And by looking at the gun, it appears that there's a silencer on the gun. Was there a silencer on the gun? And does this indicate not only that it was premeditated, but this is somebody who knew his way around guns and might have been a professional?
Once again, we won't know that until we complete our investigation and identify the shooter or recover that firearm. You see a glimpse of the gun in video, so we're not able to make a determination on whether or not a silencer was used on that quick glimpse of video.
Is that a silencer?
We can't tell from that little glimpse of video. I'm not going to commit to saying that at this time. That would be part of our investigation.
And what evidence did you
There's a cell phone recovered in the alleyway, and once again, we will process that forensically and see if it comes back to this shooting.
So you don't think that the cell phone was part of Brian Thompson's, was on Brian?
Once again, this investigation is less than 5 hours old. That will be part of our investigation.
All right, we're going to move on with Joe Marino, New York Post.
Chief, do we know when Thompson arrived in New York City? My understanding is he was staying close by the Hilton, but not at the Hilton. And has anything in the reverse video cameras indicated that these two individuals crossed paths at all?
As of right now, based on the current video that we do have, it doesn't appear that they crossed paths, and he arrived in New York on Monday.
All right, we're going to take 2 or 3 more. We're going to go Rocco, Daily News.
Chief, did he typically travel with a security detail? And even though it's early, is there anything to indicate that there had been issues with, let's say, a patient who was denied coverage, either back in Minnesota or more recently, someone who lives here?
From speaking to other employees that traveled with him to New York, it doesn't seem that he had a security detail. He left the hotel by himself, was walking, didn't seem like he had any issues at all. So I don't think he did not have a security detail.
And as far as denied coverage, I know that's typically an issue with these major companies. Any reason to believe he had been the subject of a threat?
Once again, we're looking at everything. We're looking at his social media. We are interviewing employees. We are interviewing family members. We will be speaking to law enforcement in Minnesota.
We're going to do 2 more before we wrap up. Shayna?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask if any cursory look at any social media, whether it's the company, whether it's his personal social media, his family's. Is there anything obvious that sticks out at this early stage in the investigation?
We have not uncovered anything at this time. The investigation is still too early.
We're going to go last question over here with Jake.
How's it going? With the suspect still at large, last seen in Central Park, are you urging New Yorkers to avoid the park? Is the NYPD deploying its drones? I know they recently started doing that in the park. And then also I was wondering, is there any indication when he gets this Citibike that he's a Citibike member? It's like sometimes if you're not a member, you can pay to use it. I don't know if you're able to tell on surveillance.
The chief of detectives will answer the part about the Citibike. But in terms of we're encouraging New Yorkers to go about their daily lives and their daily business, but to be alert. We put the picture out. You're putting the picture out. We want people to take a look. If they see anything suspicious, if they hear anything suspicious, we ask them to call 911 and reach out to our detectives. With an incident like this, of course, we put a heavy deployment into Manhattan. We put additional resources out. We have the drones up. We have aviation out. We have K9 out. When an incident like this happens, we don't spare any expense. We put all of our resources out there to support the chief of detectives' mission and to keep New Yorkers safe. So we will have a massive presence out there around the tree lighting, but throughout Manhattan as well until more information develops and we're able to support the chief of detectives and what he needs to make a quick arrest.
As far as where he got the Citibike, we're still working that through. Like I said, we're pulling video from numerous locations, numerous sources, and we have him on our timeline walking, and what we're very fortunate is he has that very distinctive gray backpack on. So we see him in one video clip walking, and then another source of video, him riding that bike. So we don't have video or witness confirmation on how he obtained that bike.
Can I just on the cell phone? We know if it's related to this. It's just right now what you're saying is a cell phone.
A cell phone was recovered. We will confirm that later on down if we, do our forensic examination.
Thank you, everyone. This concludes our press conference. Thank you for your time and attention.
We've been listening to New York City police updating on the deadly shooting in Midtown Manhattan of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. They say it happened around 6:46 this morning outside the Hilton Hotel as Thompson was headed there for a conference. The suspect had been waiting, they say, at the scene for 5 minutes before walking up to Thompson, shooting him several times from behind. They say the gun then jammed, and he fired more shots before running away and then riding off on an e-bike. Now a manhunt is underway. I want to bring in ABC's Phil Lipoff for more on this. Phil, so many concerning things here, including the fact that they're saying this was targeted, it was brazen, happening during rush hour at a time that New Yorkers are generally headed to work in that area and in this center touristy location.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing they said, as you just heard in the presser, was it was a brazen, targeted attack. We've been hearing that all morning. Now we have some more details to support police saying that. As you mentioned, Brian Thompson, this CEO, was staying across the street. He came out of his hotel, walked across the street. They can tell because, as you in any major city, but especially in Manhattan, there are cameras everywhere. So police have now been able to see that this shooter waited there for about 5 minutes or so before Thompson came onto the sidewalk, and there were people going back and forth. He didn't shoot anybody else. He waited till Thompson approached the door, walked behind him. We don't know if he said anything because there's no audio right now or audio on those cameras. Then opened fire, shot this man in the back, hit him in the back, hit him in the leg. Then his gun jammed. And you have to be proficient with a gun to know how to clear a jam and a slide and then continue shooting. And he did that. He kept shooting, and then he ran down an alley, grabbed a bike, and drove away.
All right, police now searching for that suspect. ABC's Phil Lipoff, thank you. Following breaking news, police sources tell ABC News United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson is dead after being shot in Midtown Manhattan. The shooting happened near the Midtown Hilton. Thompson was not staying in the hotel, but we've learned he was in New York for an investors conference. Police say right now they believe that shooting was targeted, and our Phil Lipoff is here in studio with the latest on this. Phil, to hear about
that were serious in the past, why would he have been alone?
You know what? That's the big question that we've been asking ourselves for the last 36 hours. You know, I deal with a lot of corporate executives, as you probably know, around the United States of America. And I can tell you all the way from the Big Five in New York, all the way to Los Angeles to the Big Four over there. I can guarantee you that there's not one of them that I know that does not have personal protection around them. I do not know why he went over there especially to New York City. And that's nothing about New York. Love New York, family from New York. I know a lot of people up there, but I do not understand There's no reason in this God's green earth that he should not have had security around him. He was going into an open meeting with stockholders from around the United States. There's no reason for him to be by himself, especially running a multi-billion-dollar corporation that is currently under attack, apparently by some stockholders, and currently under attack by some folks that got some claims denied. And even his wife came out and said, yeah, he was in trouble. There were people that were threatening his life. I do not understand it. Maybe he had that charismatic position in his mind that, oh, nobody recognizes me and I can get from point A to point B safely. Maybe that was in his mind. Or the second choice is that, that would be the personal decision, but maybe it was a corporate decision not to give him personal security, which I think would be maybe one of the biggest faux pas in the security world that I've ever seen in my entire life. But it's either one or two of those things. He didn't like security, or the company said, no, we're not spending the money. I don't know. That's a big question that needs to be answered.
One last quick thing, and then I want to get to David. Is there anything about this that smells of an inside job?
There's a little bit that smells like an inside job due to the stock investigation and the dumping of the stock. I don't know, but then I watched we've got a little bit different video than you have. We have one that is a little less grainy, that shows the weapon. I've taken a pretty good look at it this afternoon. He had a baffler on the back of the gun, which kind of lowers the tone of the rappel. He had a silencer on the front that lowers the tone. I understand from what I'm reading is that living in New York, that there are rappel microphones that can recognize gunshots. They did not go off. So he knew what he was doing. But when you watch how he taps and racks the gun, he does it kind of very well as a kind of a novice professional, I would call him. He didn't drop the mag. He didn't try to readjust the gun. He just did it from the top. So that kind of sets me off a little bit. One, two, exactly what you said in the beginning of this show. He's going around smiling at people. He's lowering his mask to get a cup of coffee in a bar. I mean, come on, a professional doesn't do that. A professional would walk up, pop him in the head 2 times, and that'd be it. And
the worst part is he knew where he was going to be because he wasn't staying at the hotel. Thompson wasn't staying at the hotel, and that's a big thing. Let me bring in David here, though.